Welcome to self exploration, self discovery, self education, and self expression. My name is Courtney Brame, and I am in a really, really good mood today. If you happen to have downloaded this podcast immediately after it was released, like at midnight, somewhere between there and 5 a.m., I apologize. That audio should not have gone out. But if you did, you got to experience some real realness that not too many people are going to be able to experience. So that recording was it was unprocessed. Let me say that. So like typically I'll come here and I will process things, but I think that the unprocessing or the non-processing of what I recorded previously, I had some time to reflect and do some do some outside exploration, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is like being able to go to some studies and things like that about what it was that I was going through. So essentially, like I think I mentioned that I had broken up, I had ended things with my ex girlfriend about a month ago, but I'm also non monogamous and I'm also bringing people into my life that I don't necessarily want to end connections with. So it's more of like a shift or transition and navigating that in a predominantly monogamous culture, at least, on the surface, mainstream, like that's what's upheld and promoted. That made it very challenging for me to like seek support from my friends. Because my friends are, my male friends at least, they're all, to my knowledge, monogamous, or at least like monogamous identifying. And so, when you perhaps have like issues in an alternative situation, alternative lifestyle, or whatever, it's really challenging to find support from, the people that you trust most and who know you, who can give you a sense of what your own judgment is. Yeah, it's really tricky because I have really healthy relationships with men around me, but I don't necessarily feel like I can go to them for advice with certain things. Having developed into what people deem a sex educator, so to speak. Like I'm haven't gone to school or anything, but my social media has become dedicated to sex positivity and mental health advocacy, right? So when I talk about sex in a certain way, when I talk about relationships that don't necessarily align with the way that we all have been taught about relationships, then I'm getting advice that may not necessarily serve that purpose, right? Or serve as supportive to me and my identifications as someone who is part of an alternative lifestyle. I hope that made sense. So what ended up actually happening though was completely unrelated to the situation. I got some of the best advice from a friend, my friend AJ, shout out to him. And it was completely related to food. But when he said it, so like bells and whistles went off in my head, alarms went off, like, oh my God, that's it. Historically, in my relationships, I know that I can be with anybody, personality wise. If I find you physically attractive and you support me in just being who I am, or you make me feel good, I can be with you. I can be in a relationship with you. And I have not only been in a relationship with people who've done that or who've been like that, or, just anybody. I've changed who I was or adapted more so to fit them and make them feel good about who they are slash who they tell me or show me that they want to be. AKA, I mold myself, my personality, my boundaries to the other person's potential. And so the conversation, right? Let's just get right to it. I was playing video games. I was playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare or Warzone. It was a Warzone. And usually I only get on there when my friends are on. That's kind of like our version of going to the bar, but we don't all have to drink. And so we just do it from the comfort of our homes. We ain't got to travel to each other or anything, but like it just feels like that. We sit in the pregame lobby, we shoot the shit a little bit, we catch up, and we go bust some heads in Call of Duty Warzone and then yell at each other for one of us dying or getting shot and not getting revived. But anyway, uh, I was in between games. I was making hamburgers and sweet potato fries, and I was just cutting up the potatoes because sweet potatoes are really difficult to cut up. Sweet potato fries are hard to make. Like they're very challenging to make. So like in between games, I'm in there like struggling to cut these things, and my knife's not bad, but I'm still facing the challenge of cutting up sweet potatoes. So I get back because the game's about to start, and AJ just goes, "Yo, why you making sweet potato fries?" I was like, "Oh, I'm making burgers. I want some sweet potato fries to go with my burgers." He was like, "Yo, it's still just a sweet potato. Why don't you just cook it, you know, in the oven or something?" And my jaw dropped. And I was just like, damn, that was so simple, but metaphorically to humans, like with that potato, I had to make sweet potato fries. Like I was so attached to making sweet potato fries that I forgot that that sweet potato is still a sweet potato. And all of the work that goes into cutting up and cooking sweet potato fries and the risk you run of it not turning out the way that I thought it was, or I thought it would, or it not being good, or it being burnt, or undercooked, or taking too long. Like, regardless, I was so attached to this idea that that sweet potato had to be in the form of sweet potato fries so that it could go with my burger. Because regardless, I was going to make a burger. Or no, actually, if I didn't make those sweet potato fries, I might not even made a burger, to be honest with you, right? So when he said that, it immediately shifted over to like a situation that I was going through with a partner, and how I one of our most recent disconnects was my identity as like I've a comp a, an identity that I've created to complement our relationship, to complement her, right? Or to support her. So in that sense, you know, a potato just being a potato is a metaphor for just it is like you have to see it for what it is, people for what they are, and accept people as they are, where they are, how they are, for who they are. Okay? So bear with me here, all right? So you can look at a potato, a regular russet potato, and it could be a baked potato, mashed potatoes, um, what's that thing called? A casserole, some sort of potato casserole. It could be scalloped potatoes. It could be French fries. It could be potato chips. And so, me as someone who wants this potato in my life, I will, you know, let's say I'm a chef. I'm looking at this potato and I'm like, ooh, you know, this could be French fries. And so I'll make a burger to go with it. This could be hash browns. So I'll make pancakes to go with it. This could be a loaded baked potato and I'll make a sirloin steak to go with it. This could just be potato chips and I'll just make guacamole to go along with it, right? So it wasn't that I was making these things with it. It's that, you know, I'm looking at this potato and I'm seeing the potential in it, and I'm already in the process of making myself into what, let's say, this potato tells me it wants to be. So if I'm with a person and the person says that they want to be hash browns, then damn, I'm already making myself pancakes, right? I'm becoming pancakes to this person who says they want to be hash browns, but they could be acting like French fries. Therefore, I would need to become hamburger. So the inconsistencies and identities for me molding myself around what meal the potato is either saying it wants to become or it wants to become. I'm looking at that potential either as what's being said to me and or what's being shown to me. So regardless, I'm going back and forth between identities rather than just embracing my chefness, like being able to objectively look out and be like, oh, okay, I see this for what it is. This is a potato that, can be so many different things, but at the end of the day, you have to accept this to be a potato. The potato is still a potato, and I'm not demeaning anyone from their potential or anything, but it's the disconnects, the disappointments that come are often as a result of not seeing someone and accepting them for who they are, wanting them to change and wanting to do these things where you do all these things to the potato and you season it and you cooking it right, and you're also putting it alongside one of these things that you would think go with the potato as it's prepared or as it taps into its potential. And things to be considered, like this person might be vegan, so why are you molding yourself to be steak? Like there are little nuances and exceptions to the rule of what we deem to be the norm for what goes with said potato, right? So that analogy just hit me so hard in that moment because I had constructed an entire identity surrounding an aspect of a partner that they didn't even know they didn't even realize I had done it until I told them. I was like, hey, here's why I feel the way I feel about this situation. And when I even communicated with them, I was like, I let myself get really, really upset about something that she had no idea that was so important to me. And this goes back to me having this historical response to things I don't like by trying to just calmly speak to them and say, hey, I don't like this. This is how I feel about it. Can we do something else? Historically, me saying that, I think back to even with my dad. I used to tell my dad, hey, my mom said, get me some school clothes. Think about how I said that. I said, my mom says I need school clothes and that you need to get them for me. However I would say it. Whatever opinion my dad has about my mother, that's where his reaction physically or unconsciously is really coming from. He's not looking at the fact that his son is saying, hey, can you get me school clothes? It's my mama said. So that can link to, oh, your mama said, because she probably just don't want to spend the money or be inconvenienced to go clothes shopping. So that's what this about. Man, it's not a priority. And then I talked to my mom, and my mom would always be like, did you ask your dad for some school clothes? I'd be like, yeah. She's like, what'd he say? I'll tell her. And then like it would be something, that he would say back. However, he wouldn't have gotten me any school clothes, right? Or he wouldn't have fulfilled the request. And so I remember my mom would call him and she would just go off. My mom would scream, she would yell, she'd be angry. And lo and behold, the following weekend that I was with my dad, I was getting school clothes. And it was what it was. And I recognized that to have been such an unhealthy interaction, especially in front of me, like to see, oh, you got to yell to get shit done. You got to get angry to get shit done, right? And I've grown up with just this repressed anger. My mom would always say to me, she would be like, you are, you have a temper. And I'd get mad at her for saying that. Like, how you know? I don't get mad around you. There's no reason that you should know this. But like every year I'd get in some kind of a fight at school. And there was only one a year. And it was just like the major decompression of whatever it was that was building up inside of me. And then I discovered sports, and I think that became an ongoing release of pressure for me. Things that we do or things that I've done that I am aware of that release emotion have typically been sex or some sort of playing sports, right? And what it is through sex and having played sports was a consistent feeling of being connected to, right? So in sex, there's a connection of the feeling of bodies colliding. in sports, for me, it's been like the feeling of connectedness through my community. We're goal focused. We have a mission in mind. Like, I think that everyone should have a mission statement in any collaborative activity for the long run. So, well, even in a one night stand, let's say, our mission statement is we're going to have like this, we're going to explore this energy, we're going to explore this connection, and we're going to have a great time. And we'll go our separate ways knowing that we had a positive experience, right? So I think that even in relationships, because in sports, we had our mission statement, we wanted to win. And somehow we had a formula for winning. Like the coaches and the players could have collectively come together and been like, here's our team mission statement, right? Same thing with relationships. And that's something that I'm wanting to work on. I want to do that with partners moving forward. Shit, to be honest, you can do that with friendships, but that may be a lot for people. So the releasing and expression of emotions. I have for a very long time like been afraid of any intense emotion that I'm experiencing myself, because I don't know that I know how to handle it. I don't know that others would be able to handle it. I am an intense person. I've accepted this about myself, and I am navigating life in a way that, I'm more so conscious of it. I can be someone who presents as intense. And I even noticed that in dating. Whenever I have an early on interaction with someone, there's this like intensity to it. And because I've historically been unaware of it, it's like the intensity, the enthusiasm like emerges and it's exciting and everything. But then it's not sustainable. It's not consistent. Right? So there can be this supercharge of this like even sexual energy out the gate, but then reality kicks in, or it was just like a high or something. So like somehow I'm giving people this high subconsciously from this intensity, whatever the intensity is. Maybe I'm amplifying other people's shit that's going on in them. And with me, I'm just like riding the wave of it again, conforming to what the other person's needs are in that moment, and I'm giving to them. But along the way, like now that I'm conscious of it, I had a day where I just like cried. I cried for like 40 something minutes doing yoga, releasing emotions in my hips and my back. Hips being the root chakra, my right to be here, like be here on Earth, on this planet, because of like knowing the origin story of my birth, and like how my mom was pregnant at 17 and her parents wanted her to get an abortion, and my dad's mom was someone who supported my mom in not getting an abortion, right? So knowing that origin story, I have been really challenged with my right to be here. So my root chakra, survival, like I would say like my bare minimum basic needs are met, and that's it, right? And my life is really centered around proving that I have a right to be here. So whether that look like philanthropy, that look like giving so much more of myself rather than giving so much to myself, all of these things are, all of the actions that I do are simply coming from a place of I need to prove to you that I deserve to be here, or proving to the world that I deserve to be here, right? And then as far as the emotions stored in my back, intense emotions, sadness, anger, frustration, passion. Passion is what I've concluded it was. So like moving through postures that are supposed to open up the hips, that are supposed to open up the upper back and the shoulders, I did that and I cried. And in those tears, it wasn't like a hurt cry. It was like a goddamn, finally type cry. Like, why have I not been done this? Or why haven't I been able to do this? So in releasing those emotions, moving around through yoga, again, yoga has been super healing for me over the last 8 years. And since being in teacher training, I'm so much more aware of the energetic connection. Like on the surface, when I started, it was about stretching. And then it became about breathing. And then it became about stress management. And now it's about doing life. It's about healing now. And through that healing experience of crying, I was finally able to feel the intensity of my own emotions in my own body and recognize that, like, that was enough to make me cry. I have not cried. I don't cry in front of people. And I've not cried even in situations like I had an uncle pass away in August because of COVID. I cried alone when on my past birthday because I had this experience where I felt like my grandmother, the one that I just described, was watching over me. She died and her funeral was on my 13th birthday. So there's like stuff there. And I've like had emotions every year around my birthday, but last year I felt like this was the first time that I got to really release it. And I may cry again for my 33rd birthday. Who knows? But regardless, like I have a sense of peace in relation to like my relationship with my grandmother who's in wherever she is. And so the passion that was stored in my body, I felt it running through my body. I don't feel like it was just gone or like let out or released over me. Maybe the blockages I felt released, but I got to feel my passion in my body. And this may have been the intensity that I've been projecting onto the world rather than consciously applying it to reaching out to universities to try and get a research study done in relation to my nonprofit. And I think that I do release it in small doses, but now that like I'm feeling the full and the full effect of it running through my body and just energetically having this vibrance to myself now, I am ready to give this to the world, you know? And that healing experience for me was just so like, it was so reflective of like how in my, how I look at like people and, you know, the potato analogy. Because I'm so fired up, I'm so passionate, I overdo things. Like it's intense and it's extreme. So you may approach me as a potato, but I'm going to look at you the way I see you or the way that you demonstrate to me you want to be seen. So I'm looking at you as French fries. I'm looking at you as potato chips. I'm looking at you as, and not to say that any of these things are worse or better than the other, but rather than me conforming to what it is that you're showing me you want to be, all I got to do is support you. Support may look like, oh, you know, here's a little seasoning, right? It doesn't have to look like me preparing everything around you. And this is what like fixing people looks like. And I use air quotes when I say fixing because that implies that people are broken. People aren't broken. People are perfectly imperfect. And that's all there is to it. Like we all are. We are perfectly imperfect beings navigating the world. That's all. And so feeling my own intensity, how this looks now. I said it in my mantra, like I am here. That is what my mantra is now, right? Because I feel more present in life than I ever have before. This passion in me has been sustainable because it's my own. I feel strong. I feel now like aware of when people are like latching on to it and the interaction isn't necessarily reciprocal. So disconnecting from, you know, someone who like just needs to feel something, for instance, whether that be they feel scolded or they want to be scolded or whether they want to be appreciated, uplifted. And I had to do this because someone, I hadn't been like talking to her long, but there was a period of time where she just like, it was really intense in the beginning and exciting. And it was just like, you know, we were friends and, you know, talked about potentially hanging out and going out. We hung out once. We went out with a couple of friends, and after that we made plans to get together again. And the day we were supposed to get together, I didn't hear from her. I heard from a friend of hers that she wouldn't be able to make it, which was, you know, weird to me because we're 30. Who's getting obliterated at 30 to the point where you are, you know, having to unlock your phone for your friend to send me a text message saying that you can't make it or whatever. To a couple of days later when we were supposed to hang out because this was already already locked in beforehand, and then like I just find out that you hanging out with your friend from social media and not hearing from you at all to not hearing from you for 10 days ish. Yeah, it was about 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, you reach out and you're like wanting some emotional support without even having asked me what I've been going through. And I've recognized that a lot. And for me to have seen that immediately is a direct reflection of me having experience my emotions in my body and having that release. I'm aware of what's mine and what's not. And I now recognize the value of what it is that I have because of that release. I got to feel that. Like that crying I did was like a damn, this is me. Like I am connected to myself. Like I'm connected to my body. I see the value that I have. I see why people may gravitate towards me now, and I see why they may want to, or why they may like what the emotional support that I give to others. I feel like I was on the receiving end of that from myself, and now having done that, like I recognize my value. And I recognize, like, even now, I kind of feel just this, like, I identify with the electricity that runs through the body of the nerves, and I feel like that is alive and present in me. I'm feeling myself like tingle in my toes and my fingertips, and that sensation that runs through the top of my spine from the down the shoulders, down my back, and even in my hips, like it's running through me. I feel connected to it. I feel like Sonic when he got the rings. I feel like Mario when he has a star, just when something's powered up to the max. That's how I'm feeling at a more consistent level when I'm interacting, when I'm connecting, or when I'm like going into social media posts, when I go into these podcast recordings. That's how I now feel. So rather than, when this particular person I'm speaking of reached out, rather than me, defaulting to, oh, this person needs emotional support, they're being French fries right now, let me convert to hamburger mode. Rather than that, I was able to, step back and be like, hey, you didn't ask me how I was feeling or what I was going through. And I needed to take a little bit of time after hearing from them. And because I didn't respond right away, it was a few hours later that they had said something else to me. And like, oh, I don't really appreciate you not responding. Like I just emotionally dumped on you and you didn't receive it. Like you didn't give me what I needed from you. You didn't become a hamburger to my French fries. And just even with that little bit of time, like being from the chef eye view, I was able to be like, oh, okay, well, here's actually what happened. I couldn't actually listen and respond to what you were saying, so I wasn't going to do that right now without being able to be present and give you an actual response. So also, you didn't ask me what I was going through. Regardless of what your situation is, you just dumped on me and with no regard to what it is that I got going on in my life. So me feeling empowered, feeling like I was able to handle that very positively with the prioritization of myself, my space, my energy that I now have this newfound respect for because I'm feeling it and I'm in my body. There's a lot of that coming. And I think that I've been able to consistently do that for myself. Now, going back to I wanted to give that particular example because I know that that's something that is relatable. I know that that's something that's happened to me a lot. And perhaps it's something that people listening to this are going to experience or have experienced in the past. When you feel your own feelings and you are able to embrace them and navigate them and take whatever lessons there are from it, you are and become a much more present being, present with the reality things. You are beginning to see hash browns, French fries, scalloped potatoes, baked potatoes for being just a potato or still being a potato. I don't want to demean anyone's value by putting the word just in there. A potato is still a potato. A potato is still a potato. That's what this comes down to. I don't think I ever finished the point of like my emotional releases. I mentioned how my mom blows up and then shit gets done. I never wanted to become that, but I've done it. I've quit jobs. I've kicked people out. I've ended relationships. I've done very impulsive things as a result of this repressed anger, and not communicating effectively along the way with my passion, with my emotion, because I've been pushing it down throughout the course of my life. So it's important now that, this passion that's coming out of me is consistent. So if something comes up for me, an emotion, it's important that I express that intensity regardless of what it feels like or looks like. Historically, it has not been safe, and the media reminds me every other day when a black man gets killed by a police officer, or when I see on TV that or I don't even watch TV, or when I see on social media something happen to someone. And I think that a lot of it is just an absence of understanding of what the expression of emotions looks like from someone who doesn't look like you. I'm a black man who dates outside my race. If I get too animated with my body language, if I get too loud out of and it comes off as aggressive, like, I run the risk of being shot or apprehended and taken into custody. I'm already seen as a bad guy for having darker skin in the United States of America. Like, that's already a thing. So to so to add to that, like, my now newfound passion, it ain't really gonna work out for me in the most positive way if I don't have this under some level of control. So I have to give it where it's needed. So, perfect example with my past partner, I've historically tried to communicate concerns with her. Like, hey, I don't like this thing. I don't like how this is going. Can we do something different? And the absence of any sort of intensity, any sort of passion, emotion, whether it be anger, sadness, frustration, her interpretation of it, because there was no emotion attached, was that I was perhaps being jealous, controlling, confusing, or insecure, or something else. So once it gets past the point of me, not feeling heard, of me having an emotion come up, even though I'm not communicating it, that's when I break up. And that's exactly what happened. Like, there was this build up to the breakup. I'm a personal trainer, and I have like this formula for working out. I have this formula for yoga classes too: warm up, build up, break down, cool down. And so there was a warm up, and there was a huge build up, and then there was the breakup, because I didn't allow for myself to communicate, throughout the course of the relationship, or throughout the course of the events that were happening. Like, I didn't get a chance to decompress and say, hey, here's the emotion. I didn't want to give that to anybody. Like, I don't want to give emotion because I've been conditioned to take in emotion. So giving emotion without any experience with it, like, it's a power. Think about when the X-Men first get their power, how out of control it is. But now I'm recognizing this intense force of energy that I'm wielding, and I know that I need to learn to control it. I have to feel it myself. Scott Summers, Cyclops, he just had these beams that constantly shoot out of his eyes unless he wears these glasses. But it's always beaming. When he lifts the glasses, that's when the energy beam comes out, right? Same thing here. Like, I am radiating this intensity, this vibrance of feeling. And it has been in me, and I've been like shaded from it all this time, but people get a glimpse of it and they either run from it or run to it because they want more of it, or because it's revealing something to them that they don't want any parts of. And so, here I am. Like, I am here. I am in my body now. And so what it looks like now moving forward is addressing things, with the intensity. Like, hey, this is how I feel about this. Like, I feel like, and then also including that, so that you give the other person, while they may not be able to connect with your words, they can connect with the feeling, and then support your words in making sense based on their own experiences with the feeling that you express. And that's kind of how empathy works. That's how we get compassion, through that relatability on the level energetically of emotion. All human beings can relate. Now, whether or not they choose to, that's a different story. But that's a whole separate conversation that we ain't got to have right now here. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, closing that out, like I've been reading this book, Breakthrough to Breakup, and in that, like I'm on part two now. I just started part two, and part one really showed me some things. It showed me that I've been getting support from people who are monogamous about a non-monogamous relationship, and like non-monogamous being, period, right? So I have to revisit that. Like I have to revisit the dialogue that I've been having with my friends in a way that informs them, like, hey, I want to give you guys a way to support me. And in that, like, we'll just talk about what accountability looks like, in this kind of relationship, because friends should be there already. Not like you shouldn't have to create a team of people to support you through an unhealthy situation, right? They should already be there, like, because you're friends. You do things, you're there for each other, and whenever something comes up, it's important for us to be able to show them how they can support us. So that's something that I'm working on now with my friends as a result of having read this book. The author is Erin Davidson. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to interview her, because now I have two podcasts. This one, Self, and then Something Positive for Positive People, which is way larger, and I think would be far more useful to her to reach that audience. And the only struggle is that I got to like try and tie it into herpes there. But here it's like so much more important. And so I'll probably just do it here, because this is about self-education. And I think that navigating breakups is something that we have to be self-taught. So yeah, my singleness, my relationship, like after communicating with that partner, the potato analogy still sets in. It's a matter of acceptance. Like I have to accept, a person for who they are, and same with them. And now I gotta let go of this role that I've given myself as chef. I gotta let go of these identities that I'm sorry, not let go of chef. I have to let go of the identities that I create for myself as a burger, steak, dip, toppings, to accommodate for a potato. And again, not to simplify a person, but what that means is just accept people for who they are, and not try and make them into something that you think they want to be, or that they have not consciously said, hey, I want to be this. And even if they want to be that, I don't have to be a burger to the French fries. Like I can just be there. I can be chef, and support them in whatever dish they want to be alongside. Like that's what support looks like. Oh, okay, well, what else do you need? You can go get that. But like if I'm gonna be completely honest with myself, I gotta stop doing that adapting thing. Like I conform to what's missing from the plate. Let me be that. And that's not what people always want. People want us to be ourselves. If people are around us, they like us. And if anyone is around us that we can't be ourselves around, then they like themselves more as a result of you. I'm sorry, they may not even like themselves more. They're getting something that they need or want from you without having to sacrifice, much of, if anything, who they are. So, originally this podcast was like me using the potato as a potato analogy in a way that wasn't clearly thought out. And it was very like projecting, and I didn't really discuss how my emotions and my own, like feeling my own emotions within me was impacting how the world saw me or how I interacted with the world. Like I just didn't have that. So I didn't have the language for it. And I was just like sliding through this. Again, I have very supportive, I have very good male friendships. Like they're very healthy. But when you explain a situation that's like something from an alternative lifestyle, you can't really get feedback in a way that's going to be supportive to you, because it's coming from a place of what they can most empathize with. And being in a monogamous culture as a non-monogamous person, you have to go to very specific places for feedback, right? So yeah, I'm revisiting. I'm currently revisiting the my relationship, and we're going through and talking about everything that's happened up until now and where our issues reside and like how we can continue to be in each other's lives, whether that be revisiting a relationship or transitioning into some other type of relationship. So stay tuned for that. Like I'll check back in and talk about what happened. Most recently, though, we've been able to discuss, the emotional piece. Like I was able to be angry and frustrated and express my rage, and in a healthy way of just like talking. And she didn't run, she didn't leave. And even with other people around me, like I've been able to get emotional with them, and I didn't scare anybody away. I didn't get shot. I didn't get taken to jail. So it's showing me that this power that I have is safe, can be safe. And there can potentially not be dangerous consequences of me using my power, if you will, expressing my passion and giving it to people like voluntarily. Like so often people just kind of come along and take, or they just chill out on the side and they get my energy. But for me to consciously invest my energy where where like with my friends, investing in being an emotional support system for the people who I'm friends with in real life, in my relationships that are reciprocal, and in my cause, like working as the founder of something positive for positive people. And this here, me doing self, this is me giving it to myself, I feel like now. I can say that with confidence. So making this time to prioritize, like expressing something that's in me, this is my consistent decompression. So that, so that I can continue to navigate the world. And so now that I am here, now that I've released this passion in my body, like I feel like maybe this is like a rebirth or something. And all because I don't want to give it all the credit, but I would say like I'm able to articulate this from a simple potato analogy. Ain't that wild? So a potato is still a potato. There's nothing wrong with seeing potential in someone. There is something wrong with constructing an identity that isn't rooted in reality, that complements a person's potential. So accept that about a person. Accept them for who they are. You don't have to demean them or look down on them at all. This is simply a matter of not getting so caught up in the illusion that you lose exactly who a person is. Because if that's the case, then anybody or a lot of people can fit that mold, and people aren't, unique to us or special to us, because everyone, you're only seeing everyone's potential. So why not be able to see a person for who they are, for what they are, and then welcome them, embrace them, support them, love them for who they show you they are, who they say they want to become. That's what's important. That's what we need more of. And yeah, I really don't know how to close this out. I feel like there's like one more thing to really drive home here, and I want to connect it all. So that I can like have this epic ass ending and walk away from this episode and get to my workout, which I was supposed to be 20 to 30 minutes. This was not supposed to be 43, but I ramble. I hope that when I listen back on this, that I'm like, yeah, like good stuff happened as a result of this. But I really hadn't been sleeping over a few days, and as I was reading that book, Breakthrough the Breakup, it was really helpful for me to understand like how grief works. And one of the things that was said was, do what you need to do when you need to do it. You can't put your grieving on a schedule. And so in a moment of like intensity, I reached out to my ex-partner because, yeah, even though we're broken up, there's still a relationship there. There's still like expectations there. And so when the expectations weren't met, centered around this identity that I created to support, French fries, my burger on the plate didn't get eaten, and it was just like completely disrespected, right? So that was how I felt, and I needed to communicate this to her. And when I communicated it to her in that way, like, she's just like, I didn't know you felt that way. Like, that makes sense. And so what ended up like happening, what created that friction between us, that disconnect, was simply as a result of me not wanting to really give my emotion to someone. So in learning like how to, or in learning about the grieving process, that I need to I need to be more expressive of my emotions. I need to be more present with my emotions. And I also need to be willing to take that risk of giving my emotion to someone else without fear of death. I hate to be so dramatic about it, but that's just what the programming is. My programming is that if I get too blank, then I run the risk of harm to me because it's not interpreted well. So I'm picking good people who are able to embrace my intensity, take it in. I got to be mindful of who gets how much, because it can become draining when people consistently take from you. And people ask me like all the time, how do you like run your nonprofit where people are reaching out to you sad and suicidal, depressed, or having had this diagnosis or a herpes diagnosis, and seeking support and whatnot. And the short answer is a trauma response. Like, well, I wasn't able to express emotion from an early age. I was always given it, right? And so no emotion was safe for me to express, but it was for everybody else. So I've created an entire business cause that allows for me to replicate that childhood trauma, but in a more healing way. And as I become more healed, I'm able to navigate that in a sustainable way. So I'm not getting burnt out because I was built for this, quite frankly, like, if I'm gonna be honest. And it's been healing for me to have an outlet where I'm consciously able to implement that superpower, because your trauma essentially becomes your purpose or superpower in a way. And I know that doesn't apply to everything and everyone, so please don't take that with whatever works for you. But for me, that holds true. So if I can be emotionally supportive in a specific way that works for me, that works for what I got going on, that I can sustain long term with enthusiasm, then so be it. I'm here for that. Okay. Yeah, I need to wrap this on up. A potato is still a potato. See people for who they are, not who you want them to be. Not who you want them to be. All right? And I'll follow up with, the finishing thing about grief and like processing that, and knowing that you need what you need. So for me, I just needed to be experienced by the source of what sparked my intense emotion in myself. Not being able to sleep because I'm holding on to so much stuff, like things need release. And the other day I was able to sleep so well after having sat down with my, I'll just say partner, because yes, we transitioned the relationship. We're in the process of figuring out what it is or will be. Having my partner experience my emotional intensity and hear me, see me, experience me, gave me a sense of release of all of the blockages of what I was holding on to, so that my passion and my intensity, my feelings can more freely flow through me. And I was able to have her experience that, and we were able to communicate like what our disconnects were, and it was very healing and supportive. But I wouldn't have done that had it not been for these statements about grief in the book Breakthrough the Breakup. So I'm going to have that author on because I'm going to find more nuggets throughout that as well. I'm not getting feedback from this podcast. I'm also not promoting it. But if you have something for me, like, please let me know. Just don't hesitate to reach out. Courtney at selfpodcast.com. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen and continue to self-educate. I don't know.